live. Welcome back to the MMA show. What's up, Nate and Jeff?
What's good? How are you guys doing? It's been a minute.
Yeah, doing well. I mean, life comes at you hard sometimes, so here we come. Here we are.
All right. Well, there's a lot to discuss because last time we did this, it was February. The whole landscape of MMA was different, which is insane. I would like to go in order because obviously there was an event last weekend. We have some stuff coming up. So if we could start with Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane, I feel like that would be the right thing to do because after the last episode we did, we were waiting for Jon Jones' return. There was this looming question: who will be the real UFC heavyweight champion? Because Francis Ngannou left, and if I'm being honest, I feel like a fool for thinking Gane stood a chance against Jon Jones. But that was because I've only ever heard of these sparring stories at Jackson Wink's MMA about how Jon Jones would beat up Andrei Arlovsky, Brendan Schaub, whatever. So we never got to see it live because, obviously training is different than actual fighting. But with the performance that he had, I definitely felt like an idiot for believing in Gane. What do you guys think?
I thought I would need to listen back to our episode, but I believe I said that Jon Jones would submit him within 2 rounds. He far exceeded that. He made that shit look unbelievably easy. And I don't know who beats him at heavyweight.
Yeah. Jon Jones, I mean, even Ciryl Gane, like the look of disbelief on him, like it was just like, I can't believe I got choked out there. Like it's not even something he considered. And that's always been Jon Jones. Like he's always had one of the best IQs in the game, regardless of any issues that he's had as a person. He's like meant to be in MMA. I mean, that's why he's considered the GOAT pretty much in everyone's eyes at that point. I think him capturing the heavyweight title the way he did, it undermined Francis and undermined like just any doubt that people had about Jon Jones. And yeah, I mean, it was a statement. I mean, that's the kind of thing that it's almost like a gimme. Like that was just like perfect. It was like a flawless victory at that point.
Jon Jones is one of the best to ever do it, but I don't think he's the GOAT. I still look at GSP or Mighty Mouse as being number one just because they didn't deal with any of the controversies. And I'm not talking about the cocaine stuff, but I'm talking about failing drug tests. That's the only point that it gets skewed. Obviously his fighting skills are great, but when you look at his peers, they didn't deal with any of that.
It's kind of weird because he was talking about that too, where the whole picogram thing, that they kind of changed the rule sets altogether, like with USADA after that now like most people, if that's had some of those type of things with involved, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you tested positive. So he was saying that recently like they actually cleared him. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it sounds something like a cheater would say.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, that sounds like some bullshit. They had to move a whole card for him. There's people who are way more knowledgeable than me that beg to differ.
But I know it's just something I pulled from him that I saw that he was saying. I was like, I didn't really look more into it, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. No matter what, that history is going to remain regardless of what's said after the fact. So you can't really debate, go past it now. Everyone knows what happened. So
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, the cocaine stuff kind of makes me like him a little more, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's a total bad guy.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't bother me. I felt like he should have leaned into it way more instead of wanting to have like this nice guy image for a long time.
For sure.
But after the lead up to Gane and the way that he's been presenting himself, I feel like this is the best version of Jon Jones that I like. Right, he's not pretending to be something that he's not. He's just embracing the moment because he was gone for a long time. So for him to be able to come back, I feel like he's just enjoying the moment.
Yeah, I got similar vibes from that as well, and I think he proved himself right in the sense that he did the weight gain like properly. Like he was an actual heavyweight, and he did it like very methodically, and it didn't seem like any of his athleticism was lost, which is scary as shit considering he's dealing with heavyweights, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I would like a better sample size than what we got.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, he just looked bigger, which was nice because he didn't rush it, and obviously he was going through his issues with the UFC, so maybe that did help in giving him more time to actually become a heavyweight. But yeah, I'm happy he did it that way and didn't try to rush into it.
Yeah, and considering that his grappling is such a strength in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
If Curtis Blades is able to win, I wouldn't mind seeing Jones and Blades at some point, like after the Stipe fight and everything like that, because Blades is such a good grappler. I think that would be an interesting test for John Jones.
There is talk that sorry, Nate. There is talk that he fights Stipe and then walks away. Am I crazy to not want him to do that? To have him stick around and demolish the heavyweight division just like he did light heavyweight and then walk away?
I mean, that's pretty gangster if he does that. But for selfish reasons, much like Khabib, I'd love to see him keep fighting. You know?
Yeah, I think he just took too much time off. He's the one who tweeted that what happens if I fight in Madison Square Garden against the greatest heavyweight, Stipe, you know, and I end my career there. You know, I think that's like him. He's thinking like, what would be the best? Because I don't think he has really like the Francis fight anymore and things like that. And I think if he looks at the other heavyweights, he doesn't see as big of a name as Stipe there. So he's just like, maybe I should just end at a high point.
Yeah, because there are other great heavyweights, but no one has the star power. No one even has the skill set that could even get any of us to think that they could rival John Jones right now, which is sad. But outside of Stipe, it's like, does he stick around and just have all these easy fights and they don't really mean much, versus beating Stipe, arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Watch it.
I don't know. It'd be good to see him fight more, just because he took so much time to do this, and just to do 2 fights just seems kind of like a little too little, you know. But yeah, I wouldn't be against it.
And then you also gotta, because obviously he did sign that new deal, which he was stoked about, and the way you make money is by fighting. So is he really going to sign this new big contract just to fight 2 fights and then walk away? So there's a lot of questions, but it's like after Stipe, I don't really know who else I would even be excited to see him fight, because like, okay, like if he fights Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall, whoever, it's like, okay, they'll be fine, but nothing gets me excited past Stipe right now, because like I said, nobody's has shown anything to even have anything to give John Jones, which is sad.
Yeah, I have a similar point of view. I think heavyweight's a little, I don't want to say light because it's heavyweight, but it's a little thin compared to a lot of other divisions, especially considering John Jones's major advantages just about everywhere. It'd be tough to see who would beat him.
100%.
You know,
and
speaking of beatable people, or are you gonna continue on this topic?
I just wanted to touch on Francis, because here we are many moons later, no real word or direction on what Francis is doing. With so much time that has passed, can we talk about, has he made a mistake? Is he going to regret his decision to step away from the UFC? Because it doesn't look like he's getting the offers that he wants, which is kind of scary at this point, because you got to think, just recently, right, Nate Diaz gets announced to fight Jake Paul, and that's one major or one big fighter that left the UFC where we're wondering what is he going to do. So he has a fight announcement, but here we are with Francis, like probably the biggest free agent, still no word, no real direction, and to me it's like with every day that passes it's kind of scary, and I'm really concerned about the path for his career, because he's old and he doesn't have that much time left. So I feel like the fact that here we are many months later, and he still hasn't had any news for where he's going to be next.
Yeah, I saw like bare knuckles kind of like, shady organization, kind of like iffy, but they pay people a lot. Like, I mean, you look at some of the people they brought on and things, like they like to like spend the money if they can. And even them, they're saying like the numbers that Francis gave them, they were like, it's so unrealistic that the window's closing. I mean, that's the thing. You're as good as your last fight in terms of people's memory. So if you're not active, you're not in the sight of people, unless they're following you specifically, you're just going to fall to the wayside. And so the more time he gives it, the less money he's likely going to get, and the less of a big fight he's going to get. So unless he has something in the works, I mean, he was saying summer. I mean, we're almost there. I mean, we're in spring, I mean, we're almost 2 months to halfway to the end of this year,
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
I feel like he's probably doing it intentionally. And I say that because him leaving the UFC wasn't even motivated by money to begin with. So to me, it seems like based off of his actions and what he's been saying, that money isn't even a factor. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's taking like a little bit of a break at the moment, resting, weighing his options, because I think or at least at one point, he was just managing himself. Like he didn't even have any of his people interacting with all these different like promotions and stuff. So I bet he's just trying to work through it still. And I think that we need to wait a little longer to see if it's a mistake, because I think there's a lot of potential for somebody like him to do something really cool and honestly probably make way more money than what he would have made in the UFC.
But who's he going to fight? Because even, he was leaning towards wanting to do boxing, but that just becomes an even bigger mess if you look at what, Tyson Fury is going through, and that's the person that he wanted to fight. That's the money fight. But then they're looking at other people like Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, but it's like I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to say. I would love to see Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou, though.
Yeah, I think it'd be crazy fight. Who do you think gets knocked out?
I think Deontay Wilder would knock out Ngannou in that fight.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, that'd be insane to see. I would like it, but I'm just hoping, because Nate, summer is right around the corner, and to have anything done in summer, you're going to need the announcement any day now, because obviously there has to be promotion, a fight camp for it, because it's not like, okay, we're fighting next week. No, it's like there's a lot that goes into setting up a big fight. So to me, the summer window is closing very fast, and I'm just really just concerned and curious like where he goes, because obviously he's not in the news. There's nothing going on, but he's just like slowly being forgotten, because the fight game moves on. Yeah, he was the former UFC heavyweight champion, but look at, they got a new one. And boxing, they have their whole heavyweight division that is going on without him. They don't need him. Nobody needs him right now, and that's the thing that just has me concerned. Like, where does he fit in? Because things are slowly things are moving, and he's just slowly getting pushed out, and I feel like the interest is just becoming less and less.
Yeah. Here's a question I have. Where's he training? He used to train at the PI. I mean, he doesn't see anymore, so I imagine he doesn't get to train there anymore. So maybe he's trying to put a team back together.
No, he said he was going to stay with Eric Nixick. So I think he was just going to go back to Syndicate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the PI did help him a lot, though. I think that's one thing that I think people forget too, because I mean they helped, beat him, friggin' Matt, like did a lot of hosting for him too. So I'm sure that was a pretty valuable asset that you're not going to get pretty much anywhere else.
100%. Well, Nate, I feel like you wanted to talk about the women's flyweight fight that was on that John Jones card, which I feel like everybody was surprised about.
I know Valentina got submitted. I mean, it was like spinning stuff. Everyone who's been doing spinning moves has been getting like caught with just dumb. Like you should, if she didn't do that spinning move, didn't leave that opening, it, not necessarily that she would have won, but she gave that up in a sense. But
Mhm.
she's kind of been a little bitter about it. Have you seen that? Like Valentina's been a little like mad about that, like talking about it and even like kind of blaming the ref. Like weird. It's
Mhm.
kind of like not humble in defeat, which I'm kind of surprised because she's always seemed pretty reasonable as a champ and as a fighter.
Maybe this is her heel turn, which I would be okay with, because I feel like, as talented as she is, things were getting a little stale, right? People would always write off the challengers. So to see her finally lose her belt, obviously she's lost before against Amanda, so that's nothing new. But to see her lose her belt finally, it's a nice new wrinkle for the story. Obviously, I didn't want her to lose, but yeah, I do agree with you, Nate. When people do the spinning shit a little too much, it becomes predictable, and you leave yourself open. So it's like you got to save that shit and be like, just let it be a surprise, because if people know that that's like one of your main things in your arsenal, they can prepare for it. And obviously, look what happened to her. She lost. It ended up costing her the belt. So it's pretty insane. But have they announced it? Are they running that back? Because that's
Yeah, I think so, but they haven't announced when it's gonna be. But that's what she wants. She wants an immediate rematch, which I mean, you can't really deny her. It's like, I hope it lights a fire under her because she's a killer. I mean, that's the thing, is I think she got a little complacent. I think she kind of was like, I'm gonna come in and just do my work and like show them like that they can't top me. But I hope like it's like, have we seen with some of these champions who've lost their belts, they come back with a vengeance. So that's what I hope. I hope she comes as a very aggressive Valentina.
You have any thoughts on this, Jeff?
Yeah, I hope I think she's going to come back with a vengeance, and I think her losing like this is actually overall better for their weight class and even for women's, I guess, UFC, MMA in general, because you could potentially make a star out of Alexa Grasso based on this. And it sets up a cool rematch, and it makes it more interesting, in my opinion. Plus, didn't hurt that bad because she's lost before.
True. And as much as I want her to get that rematch, I always think it's better when you build back up to it, and people getting immediate rematches. It's gotten really old. I feel like it's happened like way too often. Like I get it if there was a very close fight or some sort of controversy, but if you just lose, I would much rather them move on. And even though Valentina's been so dominant, but it's not like she was getting 10-8s every round and then just got caught. It was a competitive fight, so I wouldn't be mad if they had just a little story built up to, because look at this, right? They have these Mexican champions, right? They could break into Mexico again and have great success. But if you run this immediate rematch, chances are Valentina's going to beat her, and then boom, you just killed off a potential star, and then we're just kind of back in the same place with same old Valentina, who is a great champion. I don't know if she's a star, but I just think it would be cooler to see them build back up to that rematch, get some fresh looks in the division, give other people opportunities. But obviously, I do believe they're going to give her the rematch, but I just think it would be better if, like I said, unless it was a close fight or some sort of controversy, to stray away from these immediate rematches.
I'm with you 100% on that, Jamie. And I'm going to reference somebody that you that you brought up kind of earlier in our conversation. Imagine if George St. Pierre would have immediately fought Matt Hughes after losing that first time. We would have missed out on all kinds of crazy good development with them. We would have missed out on a bunch of really cool fights, and I'd like to see more of that. It's kind of cool that you brought that up.
Yeah, and to me, it just stalls the division, right? Because then we're gonna have contenders killing off contenders. And it's to me it just seems so weird, but like I get it, she's a longtime champion, so you want to give her that respect, but at the same time, she just lost. It's not like she got robbed from a decision, or there was like a weird DQ. Like Jan and Sterling. It's just fair play. She lost. It happens.
Yep. Not only that, say she does come back just on a tear, reinvigorated, right? She goes through, I don't know, one or two other people working her way towards that rematch and gets her confidence back. Not saying she lost it, but maybe she comes back even better and it's an even more entertaining fight. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of benefit to not immediately running it back.
I agree.
Well, they're doing Nunez and Pena 3. You see that? They just did that 3 in a row. I think they should have waited on that one because they were saying Aldana was going to fight Nunez initially, but then Pena's team like pretty much demanded like they needed that rematch, and so they made that in the end.
Then what happens? Wins. They do a fourth one. I like to fight other people.
Yeah, because if you look at the rematch, I felt like Pena got outclassed. It was clear. Like, I don't think you belong here. You kind of got lucky in that first fight where you goaded Amanda to brawl with you, and you got lucky. But the second fight, it was sad. I was just like, you should not have taken or asked for this rematch right away. So yeah, that's just another stale storyline, right? Because once again, Amanda, she's been champ for so long, doesn't have a whole lot of contenders that actually are competitive. She's just beat everybody and made it look easy. So it's just, yeah, that's gonna happen. I'm not excited about it, but it is what it is. But last fight on that Jones card, we have to talk about Shavkat Rakhmonov because that guy is insane, right? Shavkat, he's like, shout out Jeff Neal, but that fight was just insane, and it was just nice because obviously Shavkat, he's 17-0 now after that victory, and it's hard for him to find an opponent, right? Because nobody wants to go up against someone who's 17-0 and they know he's a killer. So for Jeff Neal to have stepped up and been willing to take that opportunity, it was cool because that's Shavkat's biggest problem, is that he can't find people to want to sign the contract to fight him because they know what they're going up against. So for him to finally get that shine, get a nice placement on a pay-per-view, and for him to perform well, right? It's not like he just steamrolled Jeff Neal. It was a fight. He got hit a couple times. He got tested, and it was a great showcase for him.
Yeah, I loved that fight. And one of the things there's a few things I came away with from that fight, but a big one is Jeff Neal's fucking gangster. He gave Shavkat every bit he can handle and turned it into an actual fight. Shavkat's been steamrolling everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jeff Neal built up his profile a little more taking that fight, honestly. And with even though he lost, he got submitted at the end or whatever, I don't think he comes away with his overall, value declining because he lost Shavkat. Shavkat's just that good.
Yeah. Jeff Neal, he's been on a tear lately too. He's just been knocking people out, just been being very, very aggressive and very, fundamentally good to watch. So yeah, it's too bad that he didn't make weight. He kind of missed weight for this one. So I think that kind of adds a ripple to it. But even then, Shavkat just that was a hell of a fight. And, curious to see moving forward where both of them go.
The fights that I want Shavkat to get, I can't imagine the UFC is ever going to make them at this point because welterweight's in kind of a weird spot. But I'm thinking Shavkat, Kamaru Usman. You give Kamaru Usman a legitimate, scary ass up and comer. You know what I mean? Because you can't run it back with Magny. You can't run it back with Leon at this point. And you give Shavkat a legitimate chance to kind of make a name even more than he has already. And Hamzat, Colby, Bilal, Gilbert Burns, they're all, aside from Gilbert Burns, they're all kind of spoken for at this point. It doesn't seem too unrealistic for something like that to happen unless Usman doesn't take it.
Well, aren't they working on a Shavkat Bilal fight? Isn't that the move?
I didn't know that. I thought they were. I saw that there was like talks about it, but I haven't seen.
You know, I'm pretty sure that's the direction that they're heading in, because obviously, what's his name? Cumshot. He's not even in the division anymore. He moved up, but Shavkat said that that's his brother. That he wouldn't fight him. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Usman, but I feel like that'd be doing Usman really dirty. We got to give him something a little easier, because we'll get to Usman, but things aren't looking so good for Kamaru Usman these days. But I'm pretty sure that that's the direction they're heading with Bilal Muhammad. But that's an interesting matchup, because welterweight is all messed up these days. But I'm okay with that fight. I'm not a fan of Bilal. Great guy. I've listened to him on some podcasts, and I like the way he speaks. Seems like a great person, but I'm just not a fan of him as a fighter.
That's fair, but you're doing him kind of dirty too, making him fight Shavkat, especially because I think he's come pretty close to deserving a title shot. You know what I mean? But we'll see how it takes out. Either way, Shavkat fighting anybody who's ranked above him, I'm fucking down. I can't wait to see it.
100%.
Okay, so moving on.
I can't move on without giving. Sorry, Jeff, you were cutting out.
Oh, and I was just saying that there's something about MMA fighters who wear those hats, like those Russian ones. They're all fucking killers.
So going to the next card, speaking of heavyweights, we got to give props to Alexander Volkov. He had a great win over another Alexander Romanov. Great fighter. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now, which is nice. Last lost to Tom Aspinall, but maybe if he puts it together, he has a nice frame to go up against John Jones. That would be an interesting one, but once again, I think John Jones mops the floor with him. But he's someone who could draw some interest just because he has the name, former M1 champion. But give props to him. But headlining that fight night was Merab versus Peter Yan. Were you guys able to watch that fight?
Yeah, Merab just wiped Peter Yan. I don't know. I guess Peter Yan's just kind of just on the downward spiral at this point.
No, he's always been overrated.
It's crazy.
You notice how Merab just kind of makes everybody look like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable.
And it's sad that he just so happens to train with the current champ of his division. He's friends with Aljamain Sterling, so they obviously have this agreement to not fight each other. But once again, right, people's career in MMA, everyone's on a clock. So while he sits back and lets his friend be the champ, he's just gonna be this gatekeeper for him, which I think is weird. I wish there would be some sort of adjustment, like, okay, Merab, you're not gonna fight Sterling, so why don't you go up to 45 since you're not the champ, instead of just kind of just wasting your time at bantamweight while you're knocking off contenders to not fight for the belt. It's just a bummer for me. Like, I understand their situation, but I just wish for Merab, someone who's so talented, who could beat anybody in that division, for him to just be this gatekeeper. It's a bummer.
Yeah, and it feels like this could be like a Daniel Cormier, Cain Velasquez scenario. You know what I mean? Like, say Merab ends up moving up and just starts tearing it up at 145. Imagine how much that would put over their gym too.
No,
I think he would do good at 45.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing Merab has to look forward to is to see if Cejudo can do it. See if Cejudo can take out Sterling, and if he does, that opens the door to Merab. I mean, that's the next fight that's happening. That's literally the next pay-per-view too. So,
Cejudo.
I mean, that's the only thing about this is he might have his chance sooner or later. He'll be going back for revenge, because I don't really know if they would give it to Sterling in the rematch.
No, Sterling,
depending on how it goes.
Sterling said that he would move up if he lost the belt.
Well,
That'd be fun.
best case scenario right there.
he probably cuts a lot of weight to get down to 35. Aljamain Sterling too.
Because he's a big bantamweight, so he could be decent at 145. But it'd be interesting to see Sterling up there too, because he has a nice frame for it. All right, well, Peter Yan, like I said, overrated. I'm happy to see him get exposed. I've never been the biggest fan of him. Dating back to him fighting, Jose Aldo, Uriah Faber. I was like, this guy just I do not like his fighting style.
Yeah, it felt like he would be losing, or at least like kind of keeping up most of the fight. And I'll use Uriah Faber or Jimmy Rivera as an example. And then he would land just one major impactful strike, and then it would change the whole thing, and then he would win. And it seemed like everyone he started fighting got a lot better, and you can't just wait around like that.
100%. All right, I want to move on to this crazy London card, right? Leon Edwards defeats Kamaru Usman, right? And the second fight, right? Amazing story, right? 5th round, the commentators, everybody was counting him out, and he just knocks out Kamaru Usman, which was insane. And when they announced the trilogy fight, it's like we've all watched the sport long enough to know that that's too quick of a turnaround to step back in there, especially after getting viciously knocked out the way that Kamaru Usman did. To want to step in so quick, it to me just didn't feel right. And I always thought Kamaru Usman, especially with being with Trevor Whitman and the kind of camp that he has and the people behind him, I just thought it was a bad move. So I'm not sure whose decision it was to agree to the trilogy fight so quick. If I was in his shoes, I would have taken more time to recover, let the division move on, which is fine, right? Like, you don't always have to be in the mix if you're going to put your health at risk. I feel like, obviously, like I said, everybody's on this, ticking clock, and Kamaru Usman is further along than a lot of people, especially with his bad knees. But I feel like it would have been better served for him to take a little more time off to recover, and then instead of just jumping right back in, because based off the result, he just didn't look like he was in there. He looked scared of Leon Edwards, and I was very, very surprised at the lack of performance that he had.
I agree with you 100%, and I think this is just another example of at the very least, working your way back up to a title shot. But I think he did more than enough during his title reign to deserve like a long layoff. You know what I mean? Take a long layoff, work your way up through the ranks, maybe fight one or two people if you win, and then you fight the champion again. And I bet you he would have a way better performance kind of curving up into it rather than getting viciously knocked out for the first time in your life and then having to face that guy with a somewhat quick turnaround for being knocked out that brutally.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it has anything to do with I wonder if the UFC may have pressured him into it at all, or if maybe his team pressured him into it because him and Gaethje, they fight on the same card a lot. So maybe it's a timing scenario.
I think that it's like they probably offered it to him, like, hey, Leon wants to fight on this London card. Like, if you don't want it, we're going to give it to someone else, And they, he probably was just like, fuck it, I think I could do it. But yeah, that's the main thing with watching him. Like, he didn't do bad, honestly, overall. Like, he did, he just was hesitant and not as confident as he was. He did properly block all the things that Edwards was setting up and trying to push on him. You can tell he did the right corrections. He just didn't have the confidence to back up his game plan. And that's what really, you could just tell, there was just too much hesitation, too much biting on his lip before he would do something that if he would have maybe had a little more confidence and understood, or maybe took time off or fought someone else to regain that. Yeah, I think I mean, it was like the majority decision too. Like, I mean, someone tied it up at one point on one of the judges. So
Yeah, he got paid off.
Yeah, well, I think it's only because they took a point from Leon because
Yeah,
yeah,
like grabbed age or something.
yeah,
But
those are blatant. So that was
yeah,
deserved.
that was pretty honestly, and I kind of give flack for Leon for doing it that blatantly too.
I
I don't knock them for taking the point.
yeah, I just can't help but think this is just a perfect example of what Jamie said earlier, man.
No.
Give him other fights leading up to it. Sometimes running it, sometimes most of the time, I would say running it back is not the answer. Maybe if he wouldn't have gotten knocked out and it was like a debatable decision kind of thing, but even then, like with John Jones, when he was fighting people and was kind of close, they never ran any of those back. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yeah, and props to Leon for being able to handle Usman's wrestling, because I feel like he did a really good job. But also, I'm not sure if it was because Usman was just hesitant and wasn't 100% there, but Leon did a good job. So I'm very happy with his performance. But like we alluded to earlier, the division is so messed up because leading up to that fight, Colby Covington was the backup fighter, which was a surprise to everybody because we thought he was still dealing with his Masvidal lawsuit and his brain damage, so we thought he wasn't gonna fight. But for him to show up as the backup fighter, I thought was very surprising. But it's really strange to me that Dana White and the UFC are so adamant about Colby getting the next title shot when, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve it, right? Like I said, I feel like Bilal Muhammad is way more deserving because he has a storyline with Leon Edwards with the eye poke, and he wasn't doing bad in that fight. And Masvidal fumbled the bag, from losing. We'll get to him. But there's just so many better routes that I feel like the division could be headed in. But for some reason, Dana White and the UFC, they just want Colby Covington to get the next title shot, which to me I'm still scratching my head. I'm a huge Colby fan when it comes to MMA, but even that, I don't think he deserves to get the next title shot. So and doesn't so I'm not gonna be biased and be happy for him for it. I don't think it's right.
yeah, I wanted to see him fight Hamzat. I think that would have been a perfect title eliminator, or do Colby and Bilal.
Yeah, somebody, because obviously Cum Shot ran. He was scared. He didn't want the smoke. That's why he left the welterweight division. But yeah, there should have been some sort of title eliminator, right? Because Gilbert Burns is there, Bilal's there, Shavkat's there. There's people, who are, like I said, are way more deserving, and it's just weird, and that's why situations like these, it makes a lot of people not really respect the rankings, because what are they there for in a situation like this? It's stupid. Colby Covington should not be getting the next title shot at welterweight, plain and simple.
Yeah. Fucking
So
Covington.
Imagine all that doesn't exist. His skill set versus Leon. How do you think he does? I happen to think he has a very good chance of beating him.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to go how Edwards Usman 2 went, minus the head kick knockout. Because he's.
Oh, so that beats him.
Well, sorry to say that again.
You think Leon's going to beat him?
No. I think Colby beats him, but it's going to be, I think, that same grindy style fight where he's just going to wrestle fuck him and just outwork him. But he's going to be obviously way more defensive and not get caught with that head kick. So I think title fight happens. I think Colby Covington becomes champion, which is crazy to think because Usman's still around. But yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't think he should get the next title shot, but if it actually does happen, because obviously it hasn't been announced yet, I think he beats Edwards.
Yeah. I don't think Edwards has definitely worked a lot on his wrestling, but Covington doesn't gas out, doesn't have bad knees. I mean, he's going to be very aggressive. So, and Edwards, if you put him on his back foot, he doesn't always react very well. So yeah, that's why I could see why they want Covington, just because it's like the sentiment that we just came to. Like, yeah, you probably could beat him, but MMA, you never know.
Yeah, but it's like, don't you want to build up these champions and have the division be like respected? Because if you're just handing out title shots all willy dilly, it's just like, okay, like this is weird. Yeah. But I don't know. I just wanted to get announced. And I'm curious if they're gonna keep Edwards, keep him overseas, keep him like an international fighter, how they did with GSP, right? Because remember, for the later part of GSP's career, he mainly fought in Canada, which I thought was cool and smart, because obviously GSP fighting in Canada, he's selling out those arenas like crazy. He sold out the biggest pay-per-view ever, that Rogers Center event against Jake Shields. That was insane. But I'm curious of where that fight will take place.
They're saying Abu Dhabi is the next place Edwards wants to fight in October. Like, he said he doesn't want to fight in July, he wants to fight in October.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna have a kind of lengthy layoff.
Yeah, give it, and like I'm all for champions and fighters being active, but at the same time they need to take time to hone their craft and get better. Because like, if Edwards becomes champion and then you pause his skills, right, that's as good as he's gonna get, he's eventually gonna lose, because there's people on the come up who aren't as active, who have more time, less media obligations, whatever. They have time to surpass those skills, right? Because with every new generation, like, the skill level just gets higher and higher. So like I said, as much as I like fighters and champions being active, I wouldn't mind taking some time to heal and then to get better.
Yeah.
But Justin Gaethje, these days I'm not the biggest fan of him. He fought what?
I think it meant more personality, not his fighting style.
No, even his fighting style, he's just like, okay, like, yeah, like
Jamie just hates him.
It's fun to watch, whatever, but I would rather watch more skill than these, like, rock'em sock'em robot fights. It's like, okay, like we've seen it before. That's all he does. And for me, I'm just like, okay, like, oh, it's so exciting, oh my god. But it's like, dude, we've seen this before. It's not that exciting. Like, people get knocked out, whatever. I'm way more interested in watching people actually have or use their skill set, right? Because Justin Gaethje has a broad skill set, but he just doesn't use it. So to me, I'm just like, all right, this guy's just wasting his potential. He's not going to become champ. I feel like he's kind of plateaued, because look who he's fighting, right? He's fighting these up and comers, whatever. Nobody real. I don't know if he's gonna get that Poirier fight and lose again, whatever. But he's not gonna become champ. He's washed.
Yeah, supposed to be his last run too. Like, if he loses, I think that's the end of his career. Is pretty much what he's insinuated. So maybe he realizes that he can't continue to get in brawls the way that he is. So I think if he loses I think Poirier is the fight that even Poirier commented that he's up for it. So I think that's going to be the next one. But I think if Poirier knocks him out again, I think that's it. But that was a crazy fight.
Yeah. So that is my favorite fight of the year so far.
Oh, wow.
And one of the reasons for that is because I thought Fiziev was going to beat the living shit out of Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
And I thought the only chance Gaethje had was to wrestle him, or use, I know he took him down or whatever, but to like really use that skill set. And he just fought him on the feet the entire time and ended up winning. It was unbelievable. I loved every second of it. It was an awesome fight. And do I think Gaethje in a division with Islam, is he going to become champion? Probably not. But I love watching him fight. And he even said that he doesn't have that many more fights left in him. So he already seems like he has kind of a exit strategy in his mind. But I've never seen him fight and it not be super fun. And I think that says a lot.
For sure. Moving on.
But we're analyzing him with different lenses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I agree with you, but I think it's been a fun ride, man.
Yeah.
I love watching his fights. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, and he's I got to give him his flowers. He showed people that these fighters coming from like the B and C leagues, quote unquote, they can hang in the UFC, right? Because he's been top 10, top 5 since he came in. He hasn't been getting mollywopped. He hasn't been losing to people that he shouldn't have. He's come out and shown that these champions and these other organizations can hang in the UFC 100%.
Yeah, and I guess I was so excited about this last fight because it felt like the sketchiest possible thing he could do is try and fight Paziv on the feet exclusively, and that's exactly what he did, and he still won.
For sure. Okay.
I know how happy Jeff is about that.
He's. I didn't realize you're such a Gaethje fan, but respect. But before moving on, we got to give props to Gunnar Nelson for him coming back and defeating Brian Barberena. I'm a huge fan of Gunnar Nelson because you got to think back when Conor was storming the scene and he had the whole SBG gang. He had Artem Lobov, Gunnar Nelson. They were all riding high, and there's not too many of them left. So to see Gunnar come out and still be able to perform, it's awesome. So shout out to Gunnar Nelson, and then also Jack Shore with an awesome performance.
Jack Shore did really well.
Yeah, so for him to be able to come to the UFC and just perform well, it's awesome. He's a definitely someone that people should be keeping their eye on if they're not already, because he's really talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, but moving on to bantamweight, right? We're heading back to bantamweight. Corey Sandhagen versus Marlon Vera. This is a perfect example of a fighter stepping away to hone their craft and then coming back and showcasing their new skill set and it paying off, right? Because Corey Sandhagen, he took some time off to do exactly that, and for him to beat Marlon Vera, who I picked him against Vera, but I didn't think it was going to be as smooth of a ride as it was for him, because obviously Marlon Vera super talented on this crazy win streak. But for Sandhagen to come out and to have that kind of performance against another top contender, I was so impressed, and I'm so happy for Sandhagen, because I openly said I don't want him to be that fighter that can't get over the hump in those big fights. So for him to be able to come out, beat Marlon Vera in the way that he did, I was so happy and so stoked for him. So shout out Corey Sandhagen. What do you guys think about that fight?
I thought it was awesome that he won. I like both of them, but I really like the way that Sandhagen comes across in terms of how he kind of analyzes fights and like his perspective that he's willing to speak on in terms of strategy, especially in terms of like mindset and things like that. I really liked it. I felt like Chito Vera, I don't want to say he didn't seem like himself, but he's kind of a slow starter in general anyway, and it feels like he never got the ball rolling in that fight. But that's not taking away from Sandhagen. I think Sandhagen fought him in a way where he's not going to be able to get it rolling, And one of the other things I took away from that fight was, I don't know how a judge scored that in favor of Vera.
Oh, we can get into that.
Crazy to me. You could, we've spoken about the judging and stuff before, but you'll ruin someone's career having people like that scoring fights. But I digress.
Yeah. I think Sandhagen, he does a good job when he's able to control the pace of a fight. That I think that's what Vera just had struggled with once he allowed Sandhagen to just dictate the pace and be able to kind of push him back and not be able to let Marlon move forward. He just kind of crumbled at that point. But yeah, the judging, I think, was maybe one of the things that people that when this card was over kind of talked about the most, because it was just so bad. Like, it was such a blatant, and I think they even talked about it in the commentary after. They're just there's just absolutely no way. That it should have been judged that way. And it's weird because it's always been a thing in MMA where people say this is one of the biggest issues with it. So why don't I wonder what kind of steps, or even from that point, like what have they even done to even try to rectify that, you know?
And what's really glaring about that fight, so I actually watched that fight without being able to hear any commentary or anything like that, right? I was working a show and they had it playing on the TV and stuff, and I caught the whole thing. I didn't know until after the fact that a judge scored it in Cheeto Vera's favor. Like watching it, no commentary, just seeing the fight, it was all Sandhagen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, didn't make any sense to me, you know?
Well, after the fact, Corey Sandhagen went on the Joe Rogan MMA show, and that issue came up, and Corey Sandhagen kind of gave some insight on how that could have happened. So apparently, years ago, Corey Sandhagen was coaching a fighter that fought on this regional card, and that judge was a referee, made a bad call. Corey Sandhagen gave that referee an earful, and come to find out, after the fact, somebody pointed out to Corey Sandhagen, and he was just like, hey, like, don't you know this judge? And he was like, oh shit. He's like, that was the guy that I bitched out years ago, and he thinks that this is the judge trying to get revenge years later because of this incident that happened on the regional circuit. Which totally makes sense. That's the only logical reason that somebody would have scored it in Cheeto Vera's favor, which is crazy.
And not only that, Sandhagen, I've never really heard him make excuses. He always owns up to his weaknesses, and for sure, and then addresses it, which is why I think he's like a fascinating fighter to follow. That's a crazy theory. That's pretty irritating that something like find a way into happening, but still won.
Yeah, but people shouldn't be put in a position to be able to try to screw someone over like that, right? Just because like you have these personal feelings towards somebody, you should be able to do your job non-biased. So the fact that someone like that judge could get in there and have this bias against Sandhagen, and obviously it wasn't an issue before because people probably didn't think like, okay, this guy was gonna try to screw me over. People think that you're gonna show up, do your job honest and fair, but that night it wasn't the case, and that to me is just terrible.
Yeah, it's weird as hell.
Terrible. Okay. Also, shout out Holly Holm winning again, but I don't know where she goes with her career. I like Holly Holm. She was the champ, but I don't think she can hang and be a champ these days, which is sad. But I'm still happy to see her fight and win because I'm still a fan.
Yeah,
she's cool.
She knocked out Rousey, so she's always invited to the barbecue, so to speak.
Yeah. And I was the biggest Ronda Rousey fan, but the way she handled that loss and the way she turned her back on the sport, it's something that I just can't respect, and I don't wish her well. I think she sucks at wrestling.
Dude, people hate her in wrestling. People are just like, get this lady out of here.
Yeah. Star power didn't translate. She's like obviously not a superstar. Obviously she has a name, but whatever. She's whack.
No.
Okay, but moving on, heading up to the middleweight division, Izzy Stylebender, right? He had the rematch against Alex Bahia, which to me, right, was once again, I'm just like, this is something. All right, this is like a movie, right? You got to get revenge on this guy that's been plaguing your life for so many years. Alex Pereira followed Izzy to the sport of MMA and was able to beat him in MMA. And I was really worried because once again, you get knocked out. Obviously, he didn't get knocked out like Kamaru Usman, right? It was like more of a TKO. He was still standing, never got put unconscious. But for him to want to jump back in right away, I was like, man, is that enough time to fix any mistakes that there were there, right? Fix the defense with the calf kicks or come up with a new game plan. I was really concerned, but the way the fight played out was insane.
Yeah. I think this is I think this is an example of where I'm glad they ran it back like that. I know I've been speaking the opposite in previous examples, but I think with the way the fight played out last time, and with Izzy just running through the division in a crazy way, that this is an example where it made sense to run it back. And God, I didn't think he was going to beat him. I thought Pereira was going to beat him again. Like, he just had his number, you know? And it surprised me that Izzy, I think he came into the fight as a favorite still.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. I think they did that just to entice betting. But, fuck, he got it done, didn't he? That was awesome.
Yeah. I went to the casino to watch it because they like projected on like, you know, a big screen in a room. And when he freaking, like, when he got against the cage and he was just getting teed off on, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be exactly like the last fight. You know, like I was like, but then when you just saw him whip back and just connect, dude, like the whole building shook because everyone's like jumped up like, what the hell? Like, it was and that's like one of the beautiful things about MMA, or just in general, like even if you watch it live, you watch it with a group of people, when something like that happens, like you just react, like it's just like this visceral, like, you know, you just want to jump up and yell, and it's like crazy. And you know, like Izzy showed that he was able to beat him. Honestly, I think it was smart for him to take it, like to do it so quick, because Alex has to cut a lot of weight, and like that close to, you know, a rematch, that affects him as just as much too, cutting that much weight. So I think that's why I think he was like, no, I want to run it back. And also, as we saw in that first fight, like he stunned him, you know, in the first round with the same exact punch. And he even reacted the same, where he like leaned down. Like if he would have had like 10 more seconds, he would have ended that fight too. So it's cool to actually, I mean, he's been going ham on Twitter too. Like he's just been going nuts on Alex. Like I laugh because it's like the meme where it shows like the Olympic thing where it shows like the guy like doing the champagne and all that, and he's all like celebrating, but he's like just place number 3. Like it's like, yeah, I did it, you know. But he's like, but yeah, honestly, it was really good to see him win, because yeah, you could tell like just how important that was to him, you know. And there's not a lot of people that kind of storyline plays out, so it was nuts to see like the way it unfolded. And man, power to him, because that guy was a big dude, and everyone thought it was just going to be the same, you know, experience, that Izzy was just going to just needed to get hit once and that was it. But it was the opposite this time, and it really paid off. It was a good fight to watch. I'm really excited that I got to see that as it played out.
Yeah, and shout out to Izzy. He has a documentary that's out at the Tribeca Film Festival right now, which she's been filming since 2018 up till this last fight. So that's something that they've been promoting, and something that I really want to see, because being such a fan of Joe Rogan and hearing Joe Rogan hyping up Izzy, you know, he's the reason that I was following Izzy, you know, right when he entered the UFC. So to be able to see this journey and all the ups and the downs, right? Because it hasn't been, you know, an easy ride for Izzy. He's had a lot of challenging moments against Kevin Gastelum, going up to 205 and stumbling there, and then you know, getting TKO'd, and you know, the you know, third fight against Pereira, and then coming back and being able to come out on top. I think it's a really cool story, and I'm definitely looking forward to catching that documentary at some point. But I'm not happy with the fact that he was so quick, and even Dana White, they were also quick to shutting down an MMA rematch, because obviously they're 1-1 in MMA, and I would sleep better at night knowing if Izzy was able to go up 2-1 in MMA, just because I feel like there's unfinished business between those two.
100%. I agree. And it's one of the rare scenarios where that actually would make sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I love to see him run it back.
Yeah, they're saying Alex going up to 205 now. So I wonder, and they're not going to give him a straight title shot. They're going to give him a contender. So I'm kind of curious who they're going to pick for that.
God, I have a feeling I know who they're going to give him.
Dominic Reyes or what?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. That's who I think they're gonna give him.
Give him Jan. You know what I mean?
My God!
Someone who's just gonna stand in front of him.
It's like I love Reyes, but they're gonna serve him up, and that's such a bummer.
They should give him John.
I
mean, he would fight him on the feet, you know.
That'd be a good fight. Who would I like to see him fight? No, I would like to see him bring Jiri. Be like, all right, don't jump into a title shot right away. We have this nice contender for you. Here's a warm up.
So I would want Jiri. So full disclosure, that's my favorite UFC fighter currently.
Okay.
And he needs to heal up. I don't want Jiri with a fucked up shoulder going in there and fighting Alex Pereira right off the rip. I need him to recover a little more because it was a very, very nasty injury. Come back, maybe get like a warm-up fight or something, and then maybe you address it.
Oh, you know,
but if they were to fight off the rip, I'm down to because I love seeing Jiri fight. I just think that's a really tough matchup for him, but you never know. He always finds a way.
Yeah, you know who else would be pretty good? Hold on, I'm gonna mess up his last name. Alexander Rakic.
Oh, yeah, Rakic.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be fun. I think Pereira would knock his ass out.
Yeah, I think it's a good balance one because that guy would try to fight with him.
I think it's good that Alex was the middleweight champion or whatever, but I'm not buying what he's selling. I don't think he's that good of an MMA fighter. So I think getting guys who are similar builds, same size, with way more skill in MMA, I think they're gonna fight him smarter, and they're gonna obviously have way more experience. So I think he does okay, but I think it's a way tougher road up there because even in middleweight there's people like I think Robert Whittaker would have beat. It's not easy. He just got fast tracked and was able to secure some wins, but him going up to light heavyweight breathes new life into the division because it's not my favorite division these days, but I don't think he has it easy up there.
You think Rakic would try and take him down?
Fuck, I think Rakic will knock his ass out.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, dude. Wait, imagine Khalil Roundtree. Oh my god.
Oh, oh, dude. I'd be rooting for Khalil.
Cool. Of course. Khalil's the homie, but that would be an insane fight for him.
Root for Roundtree in that fight.
Yeah. Because Roundtree, former middleweight, people may not remember, but when he was on the regional circuit, he was the was it LFA or RFA middleweight champion?
And he's also knocked out legendary strikers before.
100%.
It's happened.
Yeah,
the power.
He's got it.
I'd be so down for that. If he's the guy at light heavyweight who knocks out Pereira or beats him, that'd be so sick. And he'd get put over so hard doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what would be next for Izzy, right? Because there's this big debate. Do they do Whittaker 3? There's DDP, and then there's Sean Strickland, right? Those are the names people are saying. And I would want Whittaker to get another crack, but I don't think this is the time to do it because it's rare, right? It has happened for fighters to get a third crack against a champion that they've lost to twice before. So I would like Whittaker to get it at some point, but not for this next fight. So for me, I just I don't like DDP, so I would like, all right, let's go Strickland, even though he's annoying and he's not like on the hottest streak, but there's not much left for Izzy because he's in the position now where he's gonna have to lap the division.
Yeah,
I could see DDP happening just because of the Africa story arc or whatever.
I'm not into that. I don't care about that.
It's so corny.
Yeah,
it's weird as fuck. But I think Izzy beats the shit out of him.
Yeah. They should do Strickland, Adesanya, DDP, Whittaker, and then winner fights each other.
Yeah, I mean, Izzy makes no sense other than that Izzy's cleared out the division. You know what I mean? But whatever.
Jan was saying he wants to come down the middleweight and fight him for his belt because he used to fight at middleweight too.
Yeah, but Jan's just... I think Jan's just kind of reaching this point. Like, okay, if you're going to go back to middleweight, fight some people. Don't try to jump the line. Don't try to mess things up even more than they already are.
I think Izzy versus Jan at middleweight looks a lot different than it did at light heavyweight too.
Yeah.
I think that's an entirely different set of circumstances.
100%, because Izzy is going to be fighting someone who's depleted, and he obviously has way more confidence because he's fought him before, so he won't have to be as cautious as he was when he first went up. So I think I would root for him if they had that rematch.
Yeah, and then George Masvidal just dropping the ball. Like, it had one of the biggest paydays of his life, outside of, the Diaz fight. But
yeah, I feel like he mishandled, or I don't know who, but he should not have fought Kamaru Usman in quick succession. Obviously, all right, there's the short notice one. That's fine. Shit happens. Take those opportunities. But for him to run it back, it's just, man, it sucks because obviously he beat Nate Diaz, beat Ben Askren in the way that he did. He had a lot of hype behind him, but he just fell short when it came to his skills, because there was just better fighters in the division. So it's a bummer, because I used to watch those backyard fights that he did with Kimbo. So I've always been a fan of George Masvidal, even when he used to fight in lightweight. He had an awesome fight against KJ Noons back in the day. But it's just sad to see just another legend go down, because it happens to everybody. You stick around long enough, you're going to lose. But I'm just happy he didn't walk away after like a crazy knockout, like when he got knocked out against Usman. So he lost to Burns. Props to Burns. Burns is a great fighter. But I'm just happy Masvidal was aware and was like, all right, cool. Like, if I lose here, I'm hanging it up. He's not sticking around until he's losing to non-ranked fighters. So it sucks, but it happens. So
yeah, and if anything, the fight was kind of underwhelming. Even like, they're both super exciting usually, but that fight was.
I feel like once Masvidal started to get Burns started tagging him, I was like, oh yeah, Masvidal just looks old. So I'm just like, all right, this is how it's gonna go. So like, I was rooting for Masvidal, but once the fight started to play out, I was like, yeah, he's not that guy anymore, and it's a bummer to watch. But once again, you stick around long enough, the competition's gonna pass you. Like, father time always wins. So. Like I said, I'm just happy that he decided to hang it up, and it's not like he's not on like his fourth fight losing streak or something crazy like that.
What feels like a massive missed opportunity, and I guess if he didn't retire, it still could happen. But it seemed like Masvidal versus McGregor was just so obvious that could have been an unbelievably hyped fight, and they're both at like similar spots in their career. And their skill sets kind of complement each other in a way where I'm down. McGregor likes to fight at 170. Masvidal used to fight at 155. And they have a ton of hype behind him. And I think that fight would have been amazing and awesome and fun.
And I actually need to correct myself real quick. Masvidal actually was on a 4-fight losing streak.
That's
honestly, I think McGregor would still. I think if that fight was offered to him, I think he would still take it right now, because it's still a money fight. It's still probably one of the biggest paydays he would get, even if people would expect McGregor to win it by I think that's out of them too. McGregor, just because he's younger and he's been off the USADA for a little bit. I think he would be pretty fucking ripped against George. Especially with that last performance, because Burns was piecing him up. He was just there smiling when he get cracked, and I'm like, why are you smiling? Do something, react. You're a better boxer than this.
Yeah, I'm over Conor McGregor, right? I'm off the train. It's going to be a train wreck if he comes back. I don't want him to come back, because if we look at history, there's been nobody that has had a leg break obviously his wasn't as bad as Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, Corey Hill. status, but it was still bad enough to to have a break where he has to get a titanium rod inserted into his leg, and fighters just don't come back the same. And for me, Connor's at that point where it's like, okay, you just lost to Poirier 2 times in a row, and obviously one was a leg break, so okay, I'm not like focusing on that one too much, but the fight before that he got TKO'd pretty nasty, and he's at a point where I feel like the competition has passed him, which sucks to say because to be there from when he first fought Marcus Brimage to his last fight, it was an amazing ride, and I feel like he's at a point where he should just stop, because he's not competing with the top 5 in welterweight, the top 5 in lightweight, so why not preserve your legacy and just walk away, because he's not becoming champ in any division in the UFC today, which sucks, but it happens. But I just don't see the point in him fighting. Obviously, he is fighting because he likes fighting. He doesn't do it for the money because he has a lot of money from his other business adventures. But I just think he should hang it up, because the legacy is already tarnished like a little from his last couple fights, and I just don't want it to get worse, because I don't want to remember Conor McGregor going out like a BJ Penn. No disrespect, I'm a huge BJ Penn fan, but and into the career, it's just sad. And I don't like you don't need to take that kind of beating, that brain damage. What's the point? It's like you like to fight, but at some point you got to realize that you just don't have it anymore. And I think Conor McGregor is at that point where, like I said, he's not going to be champ at welterweight. He's not going to be champ in lightweight. And like there's these fun fights, whatever, but I don't think it's worth putting your health and your legacy at risk, because it doesn't look too good for him. And I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan.
Yeah, I'm a Conor McGregor fan. Come Up Conor is one of my favorite UFC arcs, like a lot of people, to ever happen. I'm blown away that he's fighting Michael Chandler after an injury like that. That seems like the last dude that you're trying to fight in that particular circumstance. But I see how it could be a good litmus test to see where he's really at in the division, I guess.
Well, it's not even signed. He might not even fight him. He's not even back in the USADA testing pool.
I thought that was made. Like they were doing the Ultimate Fighter, and then they were going to fight. No,
that's the normal path. But they were targeting September. But when you enter the USADA pool, you have to be in there for at least 6 months, and September's not 6 months away, or is it?
I said no. I know.
No, it's past that now.
Yeah, it's not. So, well, I stand corrected then.
Hang it up, please.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's the one thing. If you're hesitating to get back in the USADA, that already doesn't look good. So maybe just leave it at that. But another fight on this card I wanted to point out was the Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. Like, God, Font just looked sharp in that one, because I was expecting Adrian Yanez to give him a little more trouble, and he was using that jab and just when he was like grabbing the back of his head and just connected that hit, and you just saw him go down. I was like, oh my God, I was blown away. Rob Font had a great performance there.
Yeah, he had to remind people that the New England Mafia is still around. Just because he had he lost to Jose Aldo, Marlon Vera, right? Yeah, those are obviously Aldo's retired, but he left top of the division, and Marlon Vera was on that crazy win streak, also in the top of the division. So I was rooting for Rob Font, and I'm happy for him to have been able to come out and have that kind of performance and just kind of put a stamp on it, like, I'm still here, I'm still competitive, and it was a great performance. It was insane.
Yeah, I thought that Yanez was just going to terrorize him, and especially considering Font's taken some serious damage in those losses as well, and yeah, he looked fucking sharp, man. Him knocking out Yanez in the first round is the last thing I expected to happen and it was very exciting. It was super cool.
Yeah, great fight to have on the pay-per-view. Not a fan of Kevin Holland these days. Ever since he fought Wonder Boy the way that he did, and even his performance against Cumshot, and then even his last fight, I'm just like, I don't think he has it. He's competitive, but he's very beatable in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm with it's weird because it's like he's a guy who has a lot of skills. Like you can tell he's very talented and gifted individual, but he doesn't really fight in the manner that he was. He's kind of like, kind of pulling back a little more, and or maybe just not as sure. Maybe he's afraid to get taken down. I'm not really sure, but he did get that good. He knocked out Santiago. That was a pretty good connection and put him out, but I don't really see him fighting anyone else at the top and really getting through them. Santiago is kind of a smaller guy for the division, because even when they were standing next to each other, you can see the size difference of Holland and him, and it even took Holland a long time to really take him out too, even though Santiago hasn't been knocked out recently. So I don't know. I think he needs to maybe readjust, or maybe he's talked about retiring. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, as they say, if you start talking about the type of thing, you need to just maybe hang it up.
He's young though.
Yeah.
But he got a lot of fights though.
And he's one of those fighters that can't decide which division he wants to fight in. I feel like that is not a good move. Jumping between weight classes, between middleweight and welterweight, because I think that's a 15-pound difference. That's a lot. So I feel like he would be better served if he could just pick one, stick to that, and then kind of fill out your body, either for welterweight or middleweight. And also on that card, I'd never bought into the hype of Raul Rosas Jr. Yeah. So to see him get served up some humble pie from an experienced fighter, I thought that was awesome. And the way that he fought, he kept going for those sloppy takedowns. He got gassed. It was just for me, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised. Like, cool, like this kid is coming from the Contender Series. He's 18. I get why people were excited to see him fight, and even him trash talking Aljamain Sterling, saying that he could beat him. I was like, all right, this is like, chill out, bro. Like, you haven't done much, to be talking like that and whatever. Like, I know they sparred and whatever, but he got whooped, and I thought that was a great lesson, and hopefully he could learn from that and come back a stronger fighter.
Yep. Yeah, especially with him being so young. If he is gonna have like an epic rise to the top at some point, it's better to take your L's now and really learn from it, So I think we're gonna see a lot of who he really is within these next couple of years.
Uh-huh.
Who's it? Like, who trains him? Isn't it like his dad or something? Or like,
yeah, it's like family for sure. It was weird. Like, I don't know. Did you watch the build up, like where they like covered like his story a little bit?
No, I hate him.
Dude, it was so weird because one of the things that they were like sharing about him is they had like a photo of him with his aunt when he was like a kid.
Uh-huh.
And there was a light reflection on the mirror behind them, and it looks like a shape of like like a U. But they were like pointing at that. They're like, you know what that is? Like, they were asking him. He's like, yeah, that's Jesus Christ blessing me right there in that moment. That's when I knew I was going to be a fighter, and I was blessed to do something important. That's why I'm going to be in this astronomical rise and things like that. And I was just like, what the hell? And I saw that, I was like, dude, like, the light reflection, like, I get it. Like, if, give God the glory for, giving these, gifts to you and whatnot. But like, to be like, hey, like, God was in this photo, Jesus is in this photo with me. Like, that's just showing that there's no way I'm going to lose any of these fights, I thought that was a little like a weird storyline for like the UFC to present, because I've never seen them really like lean into that at all. So I was like, thought that was odd, but Yeah, I saw him live when he did his debut at 282, and he like steamrolled that guy, like just by grappling him. So I actually thought when watching that fight, Christian was even holding back. Like I felt like there was a few times he could have finished him, like rear naked choke and things, and he just kind of stopped as he was doing some of those things. I actually think he could have finished him. I almost think he was like, yeah, I'll give this kid more time in here so he can kind of learn and see.
Yeah, the commentators said that he was just being patient, that he wasn't going to go for something that if he didn't have it 100%, because it looked like he was holding back, but he performed really well. So I'm happy to see him be able to come out and stop the hype train
to the slaughter. Like they just were like, oh, hopefully this guy just keeps building up our star.
The guy's not that good.
Yeah. Hopefully he approaches things with a little more humility moving forward. And you got to think he's an actual kid, and I'd be curious to see being a little bit more humble combined with like a more established team, maybe what could happen with them, but I'm excited to watch his next couple fights. I'm player hate on him. He's a kid,
I'm not excited. But shout out to your boy, Kevin Gastelum, was able to bounce back.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which I will always argue that Kelvin Gastelum should have been a welterweight fighter, right? Because he had so much great success at welterweight. He could have been the welterweight champ, but he, for whatever reason, he just decided he didn't want to make that cut, which I get, right? It's a tough weight cut, but he's also one of those fighters that suffers from being like in between, right? If there was something in between middleweight and welterweight, right? If they did the 10-pound increments, he would be one of those fighters that would be at the like 175 weight class or whatever, or move welterweight to 175, right? Because if they did from 115 and moved up 10 pounds, like I just think he's better served there, because he's obviously he had a great fight against Adesanya, who went on to become champ or whatever, but he's always just undersized. But welterweight was the perfect division for him, so it's cool to see him still getting some W's out there. But I feel like he's just gonna be one of those fighters where he could have had more success if he would have made that cut, which sucks.
Stop eating so many tacos. You see him like there's like one of the early videos where he was like in the same, like where he didn't make weight, where he was like getting tacos in like one of the UFC videos and shit. They're like, aren't you supposed to be cutting weight?
Mm-hmm.
Making guy, man.
I think there's some pretty interesting fights for him at middleweight. I think he'll always hang around the top 15, probably possibly top 10. And I'm saying that super objectively, not as like him being from Yuma and I'm a Gaslam fucking stan or whatever. I think it could be interesting. Maybe you do Sean Strickland, Kelvin Gastelum. Not that Strickland would want to take that fight. I think that's a hard fight for Strickland. Or maybe like Roman Doldies, I don't know how you say his last name, versus Gastelum. I think there's fights like that could be kind of cool, because Gastelum has enough name recognition where someone higher ranks can fight him and beat him and still benefit from it. You know what I mean? So he's probably in like a gatekeeper type role at this point, which I'm good with. His fights are fun.
Yeah, and he's not getting like wrecked, right? So he's still competitive, which I'm happy with.
Who are his last losses?
He lost to Whitaker.
There's that. I mean, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, Whitaker's so good. I can't wait to see him fight again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
He's been out for a bit.
Well, he was supposed to fight Costa, then Costa pulled out.
Yeah.
And he just kind of got dealt a bad hand, because everybody that's around him in the rankings was already booked or had something lined up. So he's just been kind of waiting. So.
Hey, stay healed up, Why not?
Yeah, but hopefully he gets a fight soon. I know he said he wants to fight in July, so maybe International Fight Week.
Yeah, that'd be fun to go one time. I've never, always seen about it, things of that. Probably pretty cool.
That'd be so exciting.
I think it'd have to depend on the card, because they're talking Volkanovski Yair for like International Fight Week, and that doesn't get me too excited. So it'd have to be something bigger for me to want to go.
Yeah, they're probably gonna have 2 title fights if anything.
So the way I think about it, it's not even so much the card. My experience, like I've been to one UFC live event, and that was like in Phoenix to watch King just get fucking knocked out by Ngannou or whatever. But just being in that event, I ran into people like Ally Aquinta or I don't know, not like the biggest fighters, but people you would recognize. You know what I mean? CB Dalloway was another one I ran into and like got a picture with, and I thought that shit was super cool. You know what I mean? I figured that experience would be just magnified at International Fight Week because everybody's there, and you never know who you get to rub elbows with a little bit. You know?
Yeah, I think I'd have more fun at like the expo than actually going to the card, because
100%. 100%.
The expo would be like, that's more what I was referencing too. It's just, International Fight Week's like the whole like shebang.
Yeah, because I hate watching fights in public, right? Because like what Nate and I, we've been to UFC, we've been to Bellator. It's well, that, but just even like the fans, there's like getting stuck next to somebody who doesn't know what the fuck's going on, saying the dumbest shit. I'm just like, oh, this is so annoying. So I
noticed UFC is way better than Bellator live though. That I will say that.
Bellator wasn't fun?
No, because Bellator, the way they set up the arena, they don't really care about like from my perspective, it seemed like they didn't care about the in-house experience. They just were set up to make it a TV experience. Because Nate and I were behind some screens, and we're like, we can't see shit. This is so terrible.
Yeah, like the way that the UFC puts up screens for you to see. They put up screens to like display towards like so they can see. It's like weird. Like it's like you're like, what are we doing here? Like blocking views. Like it was so like bizarre. Didn't like it at all.
The only complaint I had watching it live, because you got to expect not everyone's going to be able to see the octagon like dead on. And I had good I could see in the octagon close enough, but it just to see everything. You're watching the screen. But I just noticed like they played all the same music in between fights. It's like they were cycling through like the same 7 songs or whatever. That got kind of repetitive. I don't necessarily love being in huge crowds of people. You know what I mean? But it was a good time overall, and I'll absolutely do it again. I think we need to figure out a fight to go to. We need to mob out to one of these things.
I'm down.
Yeah, we could do that.
That's a different topic, though. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, but we can definitely make it happen.
Yeah, cover it. We could do like there, do a conversation before and do a conversation after,
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a card last weekend, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen, which was a great fight. Not too much of a controversy. I feel like Max Holloway won that fair and square. I saw some people score it for Arnold Allen, which I thought was pretty interesting. Like I even rewatched the fight earlier today just to make sure I wasn't being biased, because Arnold Allen, great fighter, but he's not one of my favorites, and obviously like I'm a huge Max Holloway fan. So for me to rewatch it and make sure I wasn't being biased, I still walked away thinking Max Holloway won that like fair and square.
That sounds like people are hating a little bit. Allen, he turned it up a little bit towards the end, but that didn't feel close.
Yeah, it was a little too late.
Maybe it was just the power of the moment, it was just because Arnold Allen, I think he definitely could hang with. I mean, as we saw, he could hang with them and actually do pretty well. But maybe just the moment got to him, and maybe just Max Holloway. I mean, was the champ for so long for a reason, and this is like generally his weight class. If it wasn't for Volkanovski, he'd probably be the one that this probably could have been a title fight, So
yeah.
What do you Max Holloway now?
Well, it's tough because he is in this position where he's lost to the champ 2 times. So does he stick around and just keep knocking off contenders, or does he move up? Because he's talking about going up to lightweight, and I don't think that's the move. Because
he struggles at lightweight.
Yeah, because if you look back at that Dustin Poirier fight, there was just a clear difference in power, and I don't want to see him go up to lightweight.
Yeah, it's crazy. He actually lost to him 3 times. He's like this is one of the rare opportunities where he fought Volkanovski 3 times, like a champ, where he's lost every single one.
I could see them utilizing him as, you don't want to say gatekeeper because he's just like absolutely the cream of the crop in the division besides Volkanovski, but like maybe putting in someone like that dude who just beat Bryce Mitchell, Ilya Topuria. I think he's undefeated. Maybe making him fight guys like that, or like that Mosfar guy at some point. You know what I mean? But even then,
it's like you don't want to risk your contenders, right? Because if Max, like he beat Arnold Allen, so Arnold Allen has to get to the back of the line, right? There goes his crazy win streak. And if he fights an Ilya Topuria, who's on this crazy run, who could be a future title challenger, but if he gets to Max Holloway and loses, okay, you get to the back of the line, it's like they're just gonna keep skipping over Max and giving title shots to people who are losing. That seems weird. So I think they're gonna want to stay away from that, and it sucks because Max is in a tough spot. But he called out Korean Zombie, which should be a fun fight, but at the same time, it's just like there's not much there's not much left for him. It sucks.
That's fun, but that seems like an awful idea for Korean Zombie, man.
Yeah, because I think Max with his reach and him fighting, he could fight at range and won't be a good night for Korean Zombie.
Yeah, it's scary because you think about Alex didn't even knock him out. The ref was just like, we've seen enough. Like they just ended it like TKO because they're just like, you're just getting the hell beat out of you. I feel like that's gonna be the same with Holloway. Holloway's just gonna start doing the combinations, and Korean Zombie's just such a tough dude that he's just gonna take all that damage and just keep until same probably result where they just go, okay, we can't see this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but man, that Barbosa KO though, I didn't expect that I didn't expect Billy to get freaking decimated like that. That was like, man, that was such a nasty knee. Like anyone would have went to sleep something like that.
Yeah, and it's rough too because Barbosa is such a good fighter, but once again, he's gets to the top and you can't really hang because there's just so much talent in the divisions that he's fighting in, which sucks.
Yeah, it's like Barbosa. It's like they almost were writing that like this was gonna be like his, like, oh, he's gonna be out of the like top 10 at this point. I think he already kind of is. I think it was like 14. I think Billy was trying to take him out of the rankings.
Yeah.
So I mean, he held on, but who knows how much more he's gonna be able to build back up from this point.
Yeah. Hopefully. Doesn't get any easier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Max Holloway, hopefully, because the only path to him getting to the belt again is if Alex loses to Yair, which obviously it's possible, but I don't see it happening. I think Alex Volkanovski is just too talented at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look at the team. Look at like how Izzy adapted. Like they just have such a solid like foundation.
Yeah, but not even that. Even in his last performance, I think he won that fight. He should be.
Yeah, Islam. Yeah,
he should be champ, but bad decision making. Okay.
There's one more fight on here I want to mention. The flyweight, the Brandon Roybal. Like, dude, that combination was dude. I was glad they called them out about putting them on the prelims. Because he was like, dude, I'm top 4 in the flyweights and I'm fighting on the prelims, even though I'm ranked higher than some of these people on the main card. Like, I like even Dana White was like, yeah, he's not going to be on the prelims anymore. Like, sometimes you got to call him out, I think some people might be afraid to do that, but I was glad to see Brandon he's on a 3-fight win streak now. So kind of sets up like an interesting dynamic in flyweight because the two people fighting, for the belt are the two people that have beaten him in the UFC. So see him on the come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's just a reflection of how the UFC thinks the average fan views flyweight in general.
Yeah.
Kind of the Mighty Mouse not necessarily getting the shine he deserved when he went on that run. Maybe they were looking at it that kind of a point of view. But yeah, man, Brandon, you pronounce it Royval or Hoyval?
Royval.
Royval. That shit was sick, and felt weird that seeing him on the prelims, but I get it because he's flyweight.
Yeah, the disrespect continues, which is,
I'm not saying right. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, but I feel like if he didn't win the way that he did, Dana White would have been like, all right, like that's where he deserved to be. So it's just like I feel like he got lucky with that. Not lucky, but I feel like the outcome, like all that was in his favor to be able to make that call out. Because if he would have, won by decision or whatever, like, I feel like you got to prove yourself, right? So, hopefully he gets a better positioning next time. But things are different because back in the day, people like being on the what was it, the Fox Sports prelims, because that's where it was on free TV, more eyes. That's where people wanted to be. Being on the prelims wasn't so bad back then, but now things are a little different. With the next pay-per-view, Nate mentioned it earlier with Sterling versus Cejudo. I'm really curious about your guys' picks because I'm a huge fan of both fighters, and I'm not really sure, which way I'm leaning. So I'm just curious about your perspective.
Cejudo.
His straight up.
For sure. Yeah, I think Cejudo's got it.
Yeah.
I think Sterling, he's one of those people that people underestimate, and I think it's just maybe the way that he has presented himself in some of these, fights, like you think about the Yan, like people think he was faking, when he got kneed in the face, all that. And so he just kind of rubs people the wrong way. But he is a talented, he's the champ for a reason. And I think he has a really strong wrestling base, but that's the only thing that I don't think his striking outdoes Cejudo. I don't think his wrestling's not going to outdo Cejudo. So the only thing I think is size will help him if he can use his limbs, because he's he has really long arms and legs. If he can kind of keep him at a distance, I could see Sterling having success. But Cejudo is good. I think he, in his last couple of fights, were able to put it all together, but he's also had a big layoff. So
I think he's the kind of fighter where the layoff isn't going to harm him that bad. The reason I'm picking Cejudo, there's a few reasons why I'm picking Cejudo, but specifically, I think his wrestling is actually better than Sterling.
It's Olympic, yeah,
for sure. Like one of the only people in the division that can say that. His body type combined with his wrestling makes him almost impossible to submit, especially considering that's kind of Sterling's bread and butter, right? Is his grappling and him trying to keep pressure on people. And when's the last time you ever seen Cejudo crack under pressure? He always rises up to the occasion and has a history of being in high-profile spots like this and just making it happen. And I also think he has a really good mind for MMA, and it's going to have a really good game plan going against Sterling for sure. I feel like he went away from MMA, but never truly fully went away. I feel like he had to have been training throughout most of it, and he's been paying attention the whole time. So I don't think ring rust is going to be a huge factor, and I think the things I just mentioned neutralize strengths that Sterling has had against other people.
And you got to remember, he has his fight ready gym, so he's always been there, right? From the time that he stepped away,
he never went away.
Yeah, he's just been chasing those dollar signs and wanting more money. So I'm bummed that we had to kind of see him step away for a little bit, but I'm happy that he's finally coming back, because that was like something that I thought was a mistake. Someone who was at the top, right? He was the flyweight champion, bantamweight champion, defeating Dominic Cruz. Just the kind of win streak that he was on and the performances that he was having. I was like, this guy might be the best fighter in the world. He was even talking about going up for a third belt, which he totally could have done. So I'm just happy to see him come back. What'd you say?
I said he still can. It ain't too late.
Well, let's just see him get the first belt back, right? Because as talented as he is, MMA is a weird thing, so it's not a guaranteed win. But obviously he has a lot of things riding in his favor, so it's going to be a good fight. This is like the first title fight at bantamweight in a long time that I'm actually excited for.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting, and by no means am I trying to disrespect or count out Aljamain Sterling or like shit on him or whatever. I think he's a deserving champion. I think he's super talented. I just think the strengths that he has and that he's leveraged against other people, I don't see how he does it against Cejudo. It's just one of those weird matchups for him.
Mm-hmm.
On paper and how I see it.
Yeah, should be a good one. I'm obviously, like I said, definitely excited for that title fight. It's going to be a good one. And then the rest of the card. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think his road to victory is being able to defend the takedown, which he should be great at, and then maybe picking apart Cejudo from the outside. But I think if it becomes grappling centric, it's not going to go in his favor.
Okay, and rest of the card kind of weak, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is the situation that UFC is going to be in more common these days, just because they have to pump out so many cards throughout the year, and there are a lot of fighters as well under contract, but not everyone's going to be a star. So I feel like this is just one of those fight cards that just by circumstance it's not that stacked.
Yeah, it's like a few people like Dober's been doing pretty well, so it'd be nice to see if he can continue that. Jessica Andrade kind of fumbled her last fight, but she's fighting against Jan, which that'd be a pretty good fight. But overall, it's like you look at it, you're like, Bryce Mitchell, would like to see him get whooped again.
Mm-hmm.
Kron Gracie, he's still kind of up and coming. So it's just like a minimal card overall. Yeah,
I'm with that. They are not doing Bryce Mitchell any favors with this matchmaking whatsoever.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a super difficult fight for him.
Yeah.
And off that Ilya Topuria loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't really like how he was, talking about how he was sick and stuff, and not really just taking the loss humbly. He's just making up all these excuses, which I thought was like, all right.
Ilya's the future.
Yeah.
Guy's a good fighter. It's crazy.
But all right, we covered a lot, which is awesome. It was nice to be able to catch up when it comes to MMA. We definitely need to get back after the Sterling and Cejudo card to see how that whole thing plays out, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah. See where it goes. A lot of events coming up. I mean, like we were saying, after they got June, July, the International Fight Week still kind of being up in the air. So see what it fully plays out in the next few months. A lot of interesting matches to make.
100%. All right. Anything else before we go?
No. All good.
Yeah. No. This was a fun conversation.
Likewise, I'm always excited to do these MMA podcasts with you guys. So appreciate all of you. And we'll be back after Henry Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling. And I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Thank you all again. We'll be back soon.